Hello, dear friends. One of my subscribers sent me a Xiaomi monitor for repair. It's a curved 34-inch model. I used the same one for about 5 years, but my monitor worked fine, after which I sold it. But this one stopped displaying an image. It turns on, responds to the power button, and the backlight comes on, but the image remains dark. This is how the defect manifests itself. I haven't repaired this model before, so I don't know what the exact issue might be. But judging by other monitors I've had repaired, I think the problem might be related to the power supply to the display electronics. I remember, for example, that when a fuse in the display board's power supply blows, a similar defect occurs. Only then, the image turns white instead of dark, which is typical for TN matrices. But this one is different. Without a signal on the matrix, the images remain black. So, we'll find out what's wrong with this monitor after disassembling it. I unscrew the screws and remove the decorative cover. Next, I carefully unclip the latches around the perimeter and remove the cover. Just in case, I place the monitor in the factory foam padding, which matches the shape of the screen. This minimizes the risk of damaging the display panel. I connect the power supply and check again for any signs of damage. Basically, it's the same old story, a black screen. I check the display panel's electronics. The signal comes from the TKOON board, which in turn receives a signal from the main board. The TKOON board receives 12 volts. However, I couldn't immediately find any other voltages on the board. Literally, there's only 12 volts on the board, and that's it. There are no other voltages. Although there is power here, as there are a couple of healthy Samsung chips. Although, I just now found a 3.3 volts power supply. And that's it. The SM41A controller is responsible for the power supply on this board. It generates at least 6 voltages, of which only 3.3 volts is present. Clearly, the controller may be faulty. To test it, I think I'll have to replace it with a known good one. That way, we can determine for sure whether it's the problem. SM419A chips are available on AliExpress. They're inexpensive, but if you spend a little more, you can buy a complete Tacon board. Then, you won't even need a soldering iron for repairs. Very convenient if you plan to repair it at home. By the way, I found the board using this part number. I'll leave a link to the seller I purchased the board from in the description. The board came with new cables, although I won't need them. So, this is what the new board looks like. Exactly the same as the one installed in this monitor. To replace the board, you need to unscrew the screws securing the main board bracket, remove the tape, unscrew the screws securing the board itself, and also remove the power supply board and its bracket to remove the last screw securing the board. Next, you can disconnect the cables and install the new board, following the same procedure in reverse. Now that the board is installed, you can test its operation. I connect the power supply and turn on the monitor. Excellent, there is an image on the screen. After connecting the signal cable, the image is displayed on the monitor. You can fully reassemble the monitor and test it. But before that, I decided to check the new board for heat using a thermal imager. I didn't detect any overheating. The maximum temperature on the Samsung chips was only 42 degrees Celsius. Increased heating would be considered a temperature above 70 degrees Celsius. Well, good. I can reassemble the monitor and move on to testing. I set the default screen resolution, and it worked for several hours like that. No additional defects appeared during testing, and that completes the repair. The device is now in the hands of its owner, and let's hope the defect doesn't return. Dear friends, that's all for today. Thank you all for your attention, and see you at other repairs. Until then.